Good evening, all. My name is Kelly Webster. Today I'm talking about Apple versus the FBI. Now, the topic of my discussion this evening is a little bit indirect in a form that takes a few turns along the way. Obviously, we're a part of a technology that will be continue to move forward on for the unforeseeable future. So this case study itself involves the FBI and one of the most successful hardware and software manufacturing companies in the world today. Now, we ask ourselves what happened. Well, on December 3rd, 2015 in San Bernardino, California, two individuals considered terrorists killed 14 people and injured 22 people. Now, the FBI issued that they did have an S6 from one of the perpetrators. Although the terrorists had destroyed their personal phones prior to the attack, they did have one work phone that was recovered and intact, but locked. So to eliminate this problem that the FBI was having, Apple was asked by the FBI to create a backdoor software to gain access into the phone itself. Obviously, Apple had declined on the basis for unwilling to cooperate with the FBI. Apple, although not indirectly involved with the crisis, had to initiate their own crisis communication plan in defense of the FBI demanding this sort of information. Now, obviously, there are two different stances here. Number one, the FBI's case was they were obviously looking to solve this case. And number two, the access would help them investigate further into potential terrorists' phones or what they thought would have been potential terrorists. Now, Apple's stance were, obviously, they had written policy in the company. Number two, they had the commitment to their customers to keep things private. And number three, if they were to give this to the FBI, that would create loopholes that would compromise the system that they worked so hard to get. Now, obviously, there's some moral issues involved with this, which Tim Cook from Apple stated that rewriting the Apple software would result in a master key capable of opening hundreds of millions of locks. Obviously, he's using this as a metaphor for an iPhone and giving them a backdoor into an iPhone itself. So why would they stop with just one when they can open any of their choosing? That was Apple's argument here. So obviously, the feud runs hot, and without the cooperation from Apple, the FBI filed a suit in court of law against Apple. In February 2016, the FBI asked them once again to find a reasonable way to give them access into the phone to figure out this murder. And obviously, Apple declined once again, and this is what prompted for a federal hearing scheduled for May 22nd of 2016. And Apple began preparing then for their communication crisis plan, and I just wanted to show a little bit of sort of what was going on at that time. Obviously, the people that did vote on USA Today thought that Apple should break down and unlock the phone for the FBI itself. Now, Apple then began running their communication crisis plan in an open and transparent way. Now, as encouraged by the words of Benoit, the number one concern was they responded as hastily as possible to this indirect involvement to the tragedy by taking their own stand. Number two, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, issued an open letter on the company site laying out their privacy-centered argument justifying its decision not to cooperate. Now, this was done in preparations for the plan being executed. Now, number three, the Apple proceeded then to target their number one audience, which was their clients, and then number two, the rest of American people, not to exclude the billions of phones that Apple is actually exporting into China as well. Now, they did this in a very transparent way, like I said before, that they also targeted mogul icons such as Mark Zuckerberg, politicians, and then invited various news media companies in as well. They argued that the FBI was asking them to give up their Fourth Amendment right under the Constitution of privacy and to compromise the company's commitments and policies set forth to protect their clients. Now, as a result of all this, they were on the verge of having the federal hearing on the 22nd that year, in which Apple then found a third party on the 21st, the day before the hearing, to find access into the phone's database. Now, this occurred a day prior to the court day in which the FBI dropped the case on Apple Incorporated. Now, after the outcome, not only did Apple receive the support that they weren't getting initially, but they did solidify themselves as a safe and secure system, and the commitment to keep their clients protected were all true statements of their Apple's policies and commitments. Now, in a message to the customers published on Apple's website, Mr. Cook, CEO, said, "We can find no precedent for an American company being forced to expose its customers to a greater risk of attack." I think we were looking at a very large picture, and just helping one small case probably would not justify the vast majority in the end. So they did solidify themselves as a number one forefront leader in hardware and software, and are continuing today to do so in a revenue type manner. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Cheers.